Hello. Just double checking, making sure this is going. Let me see here. Oh, wow. Is that noise coming from this? Oh, wow. Is that noise coming from this? Or is it because I have that on? Wow, double echo. I'm sorry about that. Hey, look at that. So, pausing that. Okay. I'm assuming that's working and it was interference because I turned on the phone to see if it works there. How's it going, everybody? Um, Here I am. We made it back safe and sound. We had a family trip to the T dot to Toronto. And just first thing is first, I guess. Um, we left on Thursday, and when we left, there was it had started to snow. That's early even for us in Winnipeg. So what date would that have been? Today is the 15th, or it's 15th now. So we left on the 10th. For the most part, when we take the kids trick-or-treating, I remember many years doing it in the snow. It's not every single year, but it's more often than not there's snow. But the 10th is pretty damn early. Um, and it was heavy, heavy, wet snow. So it kind of kept us on the tarmac in Winnipeg in the airport for a couple hours. I think we got delayed about an hour 45, 2 hours. We had to get in line because they had to de-ice the wings. It was freezing as it was kind of sitting there. So when it's that heavy, heavy snow, disastrous things happen, like trees collapsing. So we were getting kind of reports and seeing photos on Instagram and that sort of thing of fallen trees. When we left, we knocked the tree off of we have these bushes at the side of our front door. They had kind of sagged over from the weight of the snow. So my wife had kind of cleaned that up to kind of spring them back up in hopes of saving them before we leave. We've got a lot of trees on our property. We've got an enormous one in the front, or I should say we had an enormous one at the front. We came back to utter chaos. Luckily, everything is okay. Nothing is damaged. The house is fine. Everything is fine. The tree is on the front of the property, overhanging the sidewalk and part of the street, kind of canopying the street. A lot of those branches fell down. We have trees along the side that our neighbors and us share. Most of those are gone. We've got another one in the front, a smaller one that's snapped in half. Along the side, branches kind of just littering the side yard. So we roll up in the cab, load everything in the front door, and just spent about 20 minutes just kind of starting to tidy things up out there because it's utter chaos. We could barely make it to the side door, basically. So, but today, I guess, even when we were coming home, which was around, I don't know, it's probably about an hour ago now, so 11 p.m., because our flight on the way back to Winnipeg got delayed 2 hours as well. There was issues with the plane. They had to wait for another one to come in from Vancouver. Luckily, we knew about that yesterday, so we could plan our day a little better today, which was great. Nice to have kind of 24 hours notice, so we didn't rush to the airport and then sit around there. So we went on a trip to the contemporary art museum for the day, and then went out for dinner, which was really nice actually. But quite a thing to come home to at 11 p.m. Dragging our asses indoors and cleaning up the front yard a bit. So I guess the next step tomorrow will be calling the city to see what happens. I'm assuming they've been starting to do their rounds and cleaning up things we saw a number of fallen trees and branches on our way. Our cab driver actually was telling us that his personal car was a write-off. A huge branch fell on it in the middle of the night, smashed the windshield, and it was still snowing, so it destroyed the interior. So he said that his car's a write-off, unfortunately. Yeah, damn you, Canadian weather is right. It's just absolute chaos. And like I said, because it was that really wet snow, that's what caused it even worse. How does the sound? How is the sound there? 64-page special. Is there some weird interference going, or is that gone away? So yeah, a hell of a time. Toronto was great. We didn't rub it in to folks back home, just because you could see that they were really struggling. It was quite a weekend. And I think I said it already, it was +5 when we came home tonight. So I have a feeling in a day or two, most of it is already cleared up. The streets are really clean and everything. I think most of it is going to melt away, which will be perfect. Everything kind of starts again for the kids. Yeah, sounds perfect. Thank you. So that said, it was a great trip to Toronto. Unfortunately, because we had the flight delay, originally we were supposed to get in for about 4 p.m. Toronto time, and I had booked a workshop. Maybe it was the 11th that we flew. Maybe I'm confusing my days. Must have been Friday, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, it was the 11th. I'd booked a workshop at Color Code. They had just so happens that they had a risograph workshop that was happening 6:30 p.m. Toronto time. We were supposed to land at 4, plenty of time for me to get down there. Hit the snow, 2-hour delay, missed the class. We landed at 6:30 at Toronto Airport. We hadn't got our bags or anything, so there was no chance. I had emailed them earlier, a couple hours earlier, to let them know, like, hey, listen, I am delayed. I don't think I'm going to make it. If you have someone on a waiting list, please make sure you get them in. Instead of me, don't be waiting. I don't want them to waste out and miss out on a couple extra bucks. So I was talking to this woman, Jenny, super helpful. I'd met her before when I went down and kind of dropped in at Color Code. So she was nice enough to say, hey, if you want to come down for a tour, feel free. We'd love to have you. And I said, instead of that, is it possible to get some prints done? And we worked out a deal, and she did a bunch of prints for me. She did the separations, 2-color separations for me, sent me a couple of versions. I had been under the assumption that I was going to choose one of them and she would do 25 prints. She ended up doing both of them, which was really nice of her. And as we were kind of making our way around that day and kind of working our way towards where their shop is, we saw a place that printed t-shirts. So I went and got a shirt printed of the image as well too, which is right there. Turned out pretty great. And actually seeing my stuff on a shirt makes me want to do excuse the fat guy sweat there. Makes me want to do some more. I think it turned out really nicely. I'm not usually one for t-shirts, and especially white t-shirts, but this is something that'll be, maybe I'll look into in the future. I've got a bunch of art. It's great to have the prints, but the biggest thing for me was I wanted to sit down and learn, whatever the word is, the program, the computer program. Why do I want to say Pro Tools? It's not Pro Tools. It's not an audio thing. Photoshop is the word I'm looking for. I wanted to get the gist of that. That's, for me, that's the gap. I don't really have any experience with Photoshop. Scratch that. I have 0 experience with Photoshop. So I was looking for that kind of link between, here's what my original art was, here's how you do the separations in the Photoshop, and then the final step of, I just chose colors. I didn't really know which colors would look best. I had an idea, so then I could see the finished product, just kind of follow it through step by step. So unfortunately, I didn't get to do that, but I did choose the colors. They had their colors on the website. on the Color Code website. So I just picked out two. Um, and then she kind of did what she thought looked good. So here's what it is. There's the first one that she chose. So green and the fluorescent pink, the different percentages to kind of give that effect there of those rays. And then the other one, I like the way the skull turned out on this one, the green with the pink. I like that layered because there's a double line on there. Um, the rays, I think I prefer the rays on the first one a little better, but I think they both look fantastic. They both turned out really, really great. Super appreciative that she was able to do that for me. Really, really nice of her. It's not like they're not a running print shop and have a bunch of jobs. They share a space with other people. So there's not like there's nothing else going on where they just have bags of time to sit around and entertain some doofus from Winnipeg. So I'm really, really appreciative to Color Code for doing that for me. It's spectacular to have these. We have UMFM has their fund drive coming up. So I'm thinking maybe I'll kind of separate these into two prints, or maybe I'll do it as one. I don't really know yet. I haven't decided, but maybe a little bit of an incentive. If people donate while my show is on, maybe I can send them a print. Yeah, so that was super cool. My son has access to Photoshop through his program. They have a free version. You can log in online. So I'm thinking, we were talking about it already. He's like, well, we can always check it out, So I know that there's a couple of videos on YouTube where they kind of take you through the steps on how to do that separation. I guess I'm okay with that sort of thing. Again, it's much easier for me to kind of sit there with somebody and kind of do those steps. So if I have questions, which undoubtedly I will, I can throw them out as I'm going. So yeah, I managed to pack those up and get them home safely. Got an empty cardboard box from the hotel and sliced that bastard up and slapped those suckers in there and ended up just carrying it onto the plane to make sure that it came out in one piece. So transport successful. In the meantime, it was a great trip. It was nice to be able to go with the family. The original plan was to go when I was there for work recently. Things fell through. Things didn't happen. I'm glad that this happened this way, honestly, because I got to spend time with them. We spent the day at Canada's Wonderland on Saturday, which was a hell of a lot of fun. Rode a bunch of roller coasters, which my body just hated me the next day. I have some sciatica pains that kind of flare up and down. They had flared up before the trip, but because I was there, I was with my son. I wanted to go on roller coasters. We did it, and we just hit a bunch of them. And boy, oh boy, was I in some severe pain the next day. That may very well be the last year that I can do that sort of thing to myself, unless I really make some physical changes. Because holy shit, it was brutal. I got pretty much no sleep that night. Ended up on the hotel floor trying to stretch it out. And then just walked because we were just mobile the whole time, right? And that's actually with anybody who may have experience with sciatica. Walking is glorious. It's sitting and lying down and any sort of relaxation that just sucks shit. So we put in a lot of steps. We put in kind of 17 to 20,000 steps a day. So that was really, really great. And I feel fantastic. Because of that kind of physical activity, getting out there, I was able to actually sit on a plane for, 2 hours and 20 minutes, I believe, the flight back, with no issues, which was great. But Canada's Wonderland is a hell of a good place, man. Some of the roller coasters there are just absolutely mental. We didn't make it onto the Leviathan, which when you see, it kind of it looks like it takes up half of the park. It's a freaking enormous roller coaster. We didn't make it to it. My son and I hit as many as we could. We had to break for a meal. And then I went on a couple of rides with my daughter as well. We went to the kids area because I wanted to spend some time with her as well on some of her kiddie rides. which was actually a real blast. She was loving it. She had a really great time. And by the time I kind of went for round two of roller coasters, we had a chance to ride, I think, just two before the park closed. Yeah, we had a chance to hit just two. It wasn't bad. Today it was getting cold in Toronto. It absolutely was such a 6-4 page special. But again, Winnipeg, man. So anything is warmer. There was people with jackets on, and we were in t-shirts walking around, right? So it was glorious for us. It was really nice, especially leaving when we did. But yeah, today definitely got colder, for sure it did. So the other thing that we had a chance to do, like I said, was we hit a modern art museum, contemporary art museum, which was interesting. The exhibits there were okay. I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad that we went. Really glad that we went, for sure. We didn't really have much plans going this time, just that we wanted to take a trip. We wanted to go to Canada's Wonderland. My wife's cousin lives in Toronto, so we got to have dinner with him one night, which was great. And we ate some just fantastic food, because every 5 steps, especially where we were right downtown, there's another killer restaurant, so we ate very, very well. And we managed to make it. My son and I managed to take a hike to the BMV, the big one in Toronto, the 3-story one, which I'm really glad that we did. We made it to the Beguiling twice, actually, because my son wanted to go back to pick up a couple of things for himself from that shop. So after we hit BMV, we went to Beguiling. And it just amazes me that BMV is a killer used bookstore. I was talking to a woman at the comic, I guess on the 3rd floor at this one location we went to. It's all where all the comics are. And she said, yeah, we only recently got a diamond distribution, and we order very, very limited things from them for our customers, because we live off of used. And when I posted about kind of what I picked up at BMV on the cartoonist kayfabe ringside seats Facebook group, somebody had mentioned, who lives in Toronto, saying, yeah, the rumor is that a lot of the stuff that ends up at BMV has fallen off a truck, which doesn't surprise me too much. It was pretty great. That section there was pretty fantastic. And the thing is, my son and I were talking about it, living in a big city, you're going to get exposure to a lot of interesting books, especially when you have comic shops like the Beguiling in town. There are going to be those people who have purchased those in the past, who are going to be cleaning things out and want to get rid of stuff. So they're going to naturally end up with a really fantastic selection. The European stuff alone at this BMV was pretty mind-blowing, which that kind of took up a good chunk of what I picked up, was these Euro albums. And then we also hit the one right by the Silver Snail. I think it's Edward Street. Just to have a look. That was the one I was in before. Love that little location as well. A lot of really good stuff. And they had a stack of Italian books there. They had some Diabolique for, what was it? I think $2.99 a pop. So they had a ton of them. So I figured I'd pick up, give 2 of them a try. And it's interesting now, after reading the Ms. Tree series, how similar that style is. I mean, this is the hand. This cover alone really reminds me of a Ms. Tree, and even some of the interiors, just with that clean line and everything, that kind of style, really reminiscent of Ms. Tree. Obviously, these are all in Italian, so I can't read them, but still, for that cheap, I couldn't pass them up. They had a ton of them. Someone must have sold off their collection. There was a couple of other random Italian books, like 4 or 5 of them, that I was contemplating picking up, but I passed on them just to pick up a couple of these suckers. So that's pretty great. I've got a couple of English translation. I should have pulled them out. Diabolique as well. But it's nice to get in the original format there. So that was a real nice one. Um, and then for translated stuff, wouldn't you know it, uh, the man finds Thorgal, Volume 1, no less, for a paltry $4 Canadian. Um, Tiny bit of rough shape, but boy, oh boy, was I glad to find this sucker. I have it. I was actually going to order it right away because I was looking at ordering some more Thorgal. I have some money sitting in PayPal from some sales on Discogs, and I'm really glad I held off because I was going to order volumes 1, 2, and 3. I was hoping to find 2 and 3. When I went to the basement of Beguiling, they had volume 3 there, but again, it had like a $18 price tag on it. I've seen them around for less than that online, so I couldn't pull the trigger on that, but a $4 one easily. And I read it that night. It was the first book that I read. And again, I'm not going to gush too much about this series. You know how much I love it. It is just, it's fantastic. I mean, it's good now that I've kind of have a sense of the characters to kind of get how it all began, because this is Thorgal as a child, and Alicia as a child as well. Goes into kind of a little bit of where he was from. And honestly, the way that I read it from volume 4 to 9, and then back to 1, still reads really well, because I really found volume 4 to be a great introduction to the book. I like that little sense of mystery. And by the time I have kind of a grasp of the characters, it's nice to get a little, hey, so how did this all begin? Like, let's do a little prequel action there. So pretty entertaining. There's a lot of kind of folk tales and that sort of thing happening in here, and some fantasy elements for sure, but a solid read. Really, really great. The other one I was super excited about, and I was hoping to find more. And when I did a little bit of look on my CLZ app, there wasn't any more from Comcat Comics, which this logo, I always thought it was Catalan. Maybe it started as Comcat and turned into Catalan. Anyway, Code 13, the first 3 volumes for, what was it, $3.99 each, so $4 each. Holy smokes, why does it all seem so fucking wonky? Can't get a handle on which side is which. Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3. I read Volume 2 and 3. Oh, Rasa, how's it going? Good morning. I read Volume 2 and 3 on the plane. I'd read Volume 1 last night, and boy, oh boy, it's great. So the thing that I have already, Marvel did a version of it. I don't know how long ago this came out, but it collects all these 3 volumes. So it's been forever since I've read this. Let's have a look to see when this, looks like 2007. I know that I didn't, well, you know what? It might have been actually around then that I did pick it up, I'm thinking, because it was from Comics America, which no longer exists. We'd moved back to Winnipeg from Ontario. So maybe I did pick it up when it originally came out. But when I was looking on, I guess one of the things, also nice to, there's the Marvel version there. What do we got? That looks like Volume 1. Let's see if we can find that same page here. Incredible story. The way that it unfolds, really, really impressive. Oh yeah, it's light years. There we go. It's light years better in this original format. The colors are a little bit more of that kind of muted, as opposed to on this glossy paper. And then of course the oversized format. There's the comparison, tiny bit oversized. The way the story unfolds, as he kind of starts getting these clues of who he was and what his backstory was, just phenomenal. some of the translation. I'm wondering if there was a new translation done for the Marvel one as well, or if they took it straight from these books. If it's a little wonky, that's the way it goes, I think, with most of this stuff. But I think Paul Costa has talked about this one, saying that it was one of his favorites, and I mean, unreal. It's just such a great story, especially because as you start to find out more about one version of the main character and what a son of a bitch he was, you start realizing that this is a guy that you're following. I don't want to give too much away, but then things kind of develop from there. So we're at this kind of mystery again a little bit more. So when I was trying to put these into the CLZ, it only came up with these 3 volumes for Comcat. So I'm going to have to do a little bit more research into that. I think Cinebook, which did Thorgal, I think they did versions of it as well. So I'm going to have to look into that, because now that I've read these 3 volumes, I'm dying for more. I need more. And I know it was a very long running series, and they rave about it. Everybody raves about it, and I can absolutely see why. And if you have a GameCube, I highly recommend you find the 13 video game. I'm not a video game player whatsoever, but that was my first introduction to 13. My brother gave us his system and gave us his games, and that was one. And the minute I put it in the machine and started playing it, I was hooked. Then I found out it was a comic, etc., and everything unfolded from there. Really, really cool. Let's see, what else did I get here? European wise, here we go. Here's a couple of things. So you've heard me talk about Tic O Tac before. A number of times. You can find the episodes on the YouTubes. And Claire Bretéché is somebody who makes many appearances on there. I found 2 volumes of her work, which are kind of one-page strips. Price tag has been taken off. Oh, maybe it's written inside. For, what does that say? I think that says $5, $4.99. There was 2 volumes of them. There was a lot. This was from BMV. There was a lot there, though, so I was trying not to break the bank on one trip, so I only picked up 1 volume. Really unique style, a pretty great style, and all just one-page kind of, I don't know if I'd call them gags, because they're not really gags. Again, I sometimes wonder with this stuff of how much is lost in the translation. There's actually, I think this is a section of, there's one kind of longer story in here. Seeing her on that show, though, her style is really fluid. It's really, really nice watching them. I mean, it's nice watching them all create this art on the spot regardless, but her stuff on that show is really fantastic. Which way am I going here? Right there. I don't know much about her myself. There she is there. I mean, I started reading these last night. I probably got about 10 pages in and I stopped. One of the things that made it very difficult is that handwriting style. I couldn't, I don't know, man. I had a problem kind of reading it at times. And I wonder, I haven't looked online yet to see. I'm assuming that her original French comics are handwritten as well, so they possibly tried to recreate that. And I don't know, I just really find it's difficult to read. It shows how dependent we really are unconsciously. Some of the spacing is really weird. The S's don't quite close. So I found it very difficult. And then the payoff on the strips, I didn't understand the payoff as much. I didn't really get as much out of it. I mean, I'm really glad to have it again in this bigger volume as well. But I don't know if I'd go out of my way to find some more. And another one I found, this one at the Beguiling, downstairs at the Beguiling, a little bit more pricey, $9 a piece. Unfortunately, they didn't have volume 1, but this is The Astral Adventures of Rocco Vargas. The Whisperer Mystery by a guy, Daniel Torres. And when I posted about these, somebody had mentioned that they may have appeared in heavy metal at some point. I do recognize the art is very familiar to me. Again, this is another one I haven't done any research in. I haven't started reading these ones, but I found volume 2 and 3. They were in 2 separate spots in the basement of the Beguiling. So I did kind of another quick look around to see if I could find volume 1, but had no luck. I'll show you the interiors of these. It's listed on the back as science fiction. The astral adventures of Rocco Vargas continue in this futuristic Western as rivals from different parts of the galaxy shoot it out for control of the crop distribution network. The favorite drug of the universe has its kingpin in one mean villain known only as the Whisperer. Sure, he can barely talk, but isn't that a laser gun he's got in place of his left arm? So there you go. And then there's a look at the interiors there. Really, really sharp looking stuff. The interesting thing about the Beguiling is they do have a lot of the French albums. They had some really great Mobius stuff, but again, that the prices on it are pretty damn steep because Beguiling is not a used. They don't just deal in used stuff; they deal in new stuff as well. And I mean, they're kind of comic shop, right? So they're going to they can afford to have stuff sitting on the shelves. It's not killing them too much. And I just couldn't drop $30 on one album, one Mobius album, even if it was an original. I just couldn't bring myself to do it, especially when there was so much else to choose from. So I'm excited about those. Those are next on the reading list. And then here's volume 3. I love the wider format, Rasa. I absolutely love this format. I think I may have said it before about the the other reprints. Shoot, why am I blanking on his name? Mobius and who else did Metal Hurlant? Wow, just absolutely drew a blank there. Drie. The Drie books, seeing them in that bigger format, in that hardcover format especially, I love. But I love these oversized volumes a lot. I would prefer to read everything in this size, actually, partially due to my eyes. It really makes it easier with the glasses on to read it. But I just love seeing the art at that bigger size and that wider format. Yeah, and Jodorowsky stuff too. Absolutely, the Jodorowsky stuff for sure. So yes is the answer. No, you spelt it right. That's it. Yes is the answer to that for sure. Let's go to this. Another kind of unusual size. Another thing that I read actually the first night. 2 volumes of this. Cartoonist Kayfabe have raved about this. I didn't really know much about it. I've seen it before years ago because as soon as they showed off the 2 volumes that exist, it was recognizable to me, but I never really put 2 and 2 together. Found a used copy of Big Numbers. So at the Beguiling out front, they have a bunch of used boxes, and this was stuffed in there for $5. So this was supposed to be a 12-issue series. Alan Moore and Bill Sienkiewicz. Sienkiewicz did the first 2 volumes, and I believe he was halfway through the 3rd volume and was tied up with other projects, possibly. So we handed it over to somebody else to do the art. That individual, whose name is escaping me right now, had kind of a meltdown with overanalyzing his art and thinking it was horrible, and it ended up destroying his first book. This is from Alan Moore's company, Mad Love, as well. And it's, speaking of formats, it's an unusual format as well. It's square, so wider than this, and a bit shorter. But the Sienkiewicz art is exactly what you'd expect. A really great mix of all of his styles. As I try to peek around there to see what you're seeing. Unique story. I sort of made heads and tails of this first volumes. Like I said, they rave about it, saying that it's his best work. They figure it's his best work. Um, I don't know. I'd love to read where it goes. I didn't find volume 2. It is a hassle storing all size books, for sure. It is. It absolutely is. But for $5, I just couldn't let it pass. So I'd love to read volume 2 to see maybe something just really, really clicks in volume 2. Like I said, volume 1, it wasn't a bad story. It didn't grab me by the nuts. You know what I mean? It really just didn't. Enjoyable for sure. And interested in reading the second volume? Absolutely. Yeah, almost does. Yeah. So that was a great score. Let's see what else. Let's go to these ones. Something I'm extremely excited about. I think I still have just one volume. I had 3. Well, okay, let's start here. So I found the 4 volumes, or the 4 magazine issues of Jim Volume 1. So Jim Woodring, his first kind of Fantagraphics published series was this magazine-sized Jim. I had 3 of the 4 volumes. I think it was 1, 3, and 4 that I had. And they're since gone, along with a lot of other stuff, actually. Records and some really early Pete Bagg stuff and some early Daniel Clowes stuff. I think some Lloyd Llewellyn. The Pete Bagg, I even had like newspaper strips. Like, seriously, let's not even talk about it. Just don't even talk about it. I don't know what the hell happened to them. I have some ideas, but it was so long ago that I'm not sure if my memory serves me correct about it. So anyway, I found these at the Beguiling, and when I brought them to the counter, the guy kind of chuckled. He's like, "We just got these in and put them out." And I'm like, perfect. There's some quick turnaround. I'm glad I got here when I did then, because I do not see these around at all. I don't see them anywhere. And like I said, I think I have one of these buried in a box, possibly this issue. I didn't want to take a chance. I bought all 4. They were a couple of bucks for sure. This was probably the priciest thing that I picked up out of the used books that I found, but totally worth it, because boy, oh boy, do these bring back some memories. And most of the memories are that it's just a fucking amazing series. And it just reminds me how much I love Jim Woodring. So especially the first, I think, 2 issues, there's a lot of kind of prose in here as well. So Jim Woodring, if you don't know, he drew a lot on his dreams, and there was a real surrealism bent to his work as well. But also a very incredible art style, both painted and illustrative, and just kind of went on from here to do another volume of Jim. His main character, Frank, had his own series, that sort of thing. I love this first strip here. What's it called? 2 children inadvertently kill an agent of the devil through an excess of youthful high spirits. It's just great because when they turn their back on the little bastard for a second, he makes this kind of grimace, and then as soon as they look at him again, he's smiling, and they just pull him out of the ground and kill him. Great, really great stuff. And then we get kind of a 6-page story again. And then we get some more strips. Seafood Platter from Hell. And again, based kind of on his dreams. One of the things that sticks with me from this series is, this Jim Land novelties. He always had a couple of pages of Were they real stuff? Were they kind of put-ons? I don't really know. Some of them do seem legit. Let's see. Erotic drawings in lemon juice. Jim Book of the Dead. A Jim mask. Weasel silhouette. You could get some photos. You could get dream journals from him. So it's really, really cool. Yes, this Tales of Bears. Is that the one you're talking about, Rasa? I think there's probably a pretty big lag, but there you go. There's that shot again. Anyway, these were hugely influential for me growing up when I discovered these. This, like I said, neat stuff. Pete Bag. I think people did send in money, and he made some. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me whatsoever, because they really do bridge a gap of, are these real or are these complete put-ons? And then here's volume 2. This one or number 2 rather. This one I never had, so that's great to find it. And again, more of the same. You're getting some illustration with some prose, and then you're getting some strips as well here. Let's open to. Here we go. Love his style, and it really just develops. I guess what happened was Fantagraphics saw he was self-publishing these little zines of his work, and they found some and were instantly drawn to it and offered him, hey, let us do some of it. I'm not sure if a lot of the first volume was from his original zines or not. But yeah, so I'm assuming they did well enough. And then here's issue number 3, classic cover. And then finally, this one, and I wish I still had it. I don't know. I don't think my parents still have it. This one is huge for me, because in junior high art class, we had to do a self-portrait. I think I was I grade 7 or grade 8? I'm not sure, possibly grade 8. We had to do a self-portrait. So I did a self-portrait, and it was me holding the pencil, sticking it into Frank's mouth, kind of a reflection in a mirror in this kind of room. Super hokey. I'm sure it looks awful if I did have it here to show you, but this cover again has something that just stuck with me, because that's how much this magazine affected my life, and Jim Woodring affected my life. One of his most infamous characters, Polku, the spirit of drunkenness, right there. Great stuff. Made a few appearances. But yeah, check him out. Let's see, is this the one where... No, he doesn't turn into it, but he finds this spirit starts following him, and eventually lands on his head, and he ends up walking down the streets naked till he finally chucks this spirit away, and it kind of deflates like a balloon. Really, really cool. Jim Woodring. Couple of surprise finds. Still working on finishing the Eclipse series. Some of the graphic novels that they put out are hard to find. I'm having a real difficult time finding them. Again, looking to find them for a decent price. Found 2 of them on this trip for $7. Zorro. When I was reading about it on the Eclipse blog that's out there, their idea was these are reprints, six stories reprinted in the hopes of seeing what kind of audience reception would they get from it, because they had ideas to create new Zorro strips, and they had artists and writers kind of lined up. I didn't see who they had lined up, what names, but they decided they would do this first to see if they could sell the books before they invested in creating new content. I'm assuming it didn't go very well at all because Eclipse did not publish any Zorro titles after this. So there's kind of a graphic novel size there, almost a European size, actually. And then the other one that I'm excited to have, Timothy Truman's Tecumseh, based on a play, I think. An illustrated adaptation by Timothy Truman. There's the old Eclipse Books logo there. The one thing I'll say about this is Truman's art is not up to snuff in this one. I don't remember. Alan Eckert. Anyway, I think it was based on a play, but it's not telling me right in the front. Truman's the good thing about Truman's style is how rough it kind of looks and how much character there is to the line. This just seems too polished for Truman. I mean, I'm really glad to have it because, again, pretty much can't go wrong with Truman. But even your most well-loved creators are not flawless, because this art just doesn't speak to me like the rest of Truman's stuff does. Even if Tecumseh still has a little bit of that scout look to him. Either way, though, really great to have those 2 volumes for the old Eclipse collection. They didn't do many graphic novels that side. Oh, I think the other thing was this also a Four Winds? Truman had his own line for a little while too, where he was going to do some more personal work. No, this one just has Eclipse books in it. Yeah, no, it doesn't have... there was a soft cover edition. This is 1992, a hardcover edition, and then a signed and numbered edition as well too. Either way. Rasa, you saw the review of that Joker movie. Oh, the Half in the Bag, yeah? I think, like I was saying on, I'm not sure if it came across on Twitter. It's difficult to kind of get the point across. I didn't dislike it. I didn't love it though. I know that it's a superhero movie, basically. There was it just hit it too many of the usual notes, like, oh, here's this clown, and oh, he's gonna get beaten up here, and oh, this is gonna happen, and feeling sorry for the guy. It was a little too cliche at points. But like I was saying to you on Twitter, Joaquin Phoenix did an incredible job. Do I think it's an Oscar-worthy performance? Oh, fuck no. And a little heavy-handed? Absolutely. Really on the nose? Absolutely. A little too... I don't know, people really rave about the scene where he goes on the talk show. I found that scene so heavy-handed. Like, really, now we have to have the character sit and explain to us directly of why he's doing these things. It made me groan a little bit, to be honest, that scene. I like how it developed. And spoiler alert, the end, as it was coming, I didn't know. I kind of snapped into it of like, oh yeah, how the fuck are they going to end this goddamn thing? It ended very open. I'm happy the way that it ended, with him kind of... There was a couple of really good comic scenes. Let's just get this out of the way. When he's getting questioned by the police outside the hospital, when his mom, there's the shot of him walking into the door. I was the only one in the theater that did so, but I laughed for a good kind of 2 minutes. It took me completely by surprise. That kind of all of a sudden slapstick element into this super dark and kind of serious. It worked really well for me. I thought it was fucking hilarious. The end, when he kind of walks down the hallway and his blood footprints, and then you see him do kind of like a Looney Tunes back one way, back this way as someone's chasing him through the hallway. I enjoyed that. You guys were alone in this, and wow, that's madness. I was there with probably about a dozen people, so it was almost empty, but not quite. Um, but I don't know. I mean, I liked it. It left it open that I wonder, are they planning to reboot Batman? Because this really, and again, it's this idea of like, oh, fuck, here we go. We got to see how Bruce Wayne, again, seriously. And the one thing that they said in that Half in the Bag, which I didn't think about until they said it, was that it was a really great idea to show the Joker origin story the way that they did, because in the Batman origin story or the Bruce Wayne origin story, all of the villains and stuff, really, you really get his perspective. He's really been wronged. This one, you really do get a perspective of the Joker, where even Bruce's father is just a fucking scumbag in this movie, man. You hate him. And I do like also how they dealt with the one thing that I've always felt about the Joker is that he doesn't give a shit. There's all this talk when people talk deeply about the character, that at his heart, he's an anarchist and he just wants the whole system to crash. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. He's just fucking crazy and he just wants to do all this crazy shit. People attach their philosophies and their politics to his actions. But in the interview, when he's sitting with Robert De Niro, he asks him about politics and he plainly says, like, no, I'm not associated with that whatsoever. And the way that Joaquin Phoenix kind of handles that scene, it really gave me the sense of like, no, he's just fucking crazy. He doesn't have anything in all of this. He's just nuts. And he just wants this adoration. And it's funny because I haven't heard anybody compare this to De Niro's King of Comedy, which, yeah, sure, there's Taxi Driver all over this. For sure there is. But there's some strong elements of King of Comedy, and especially with De Niro now in the role of the talk show host, where it was Jerry Lewis in the role of the talk show host, and De Niro in his basement doing these bits for literally cardboard cutout audiences. You know, you have here the Joker doing these bits in his apartment, kind of getting ready for the show, using the TV's laugh track as his kind of internal laugh track, and this kind of imaginative world that he goes down. Like, I haven't heard yet anybody make the comparisons to King of Comedy, but I think it has a lot more in common with that than it does with Taxi Driver. And then you're asking, Rasa, did he kill the girl at the end? I'm assuming absolutely killed her. No doubt about it, in my mind anyway. And again, just here's who this character is. And now he's really, now that was kind of the final nail of like, now he's fully the Joker. We've seen him kind of form and he stumbles and he's awkward and he's kind of a goofball, but now he's done those actions and he's fully snapped. When he stands on top of that car and everything, he's fully gone. That's it. That's the real development of the character. And I just love that there was these kind of political things attached to it where he's just not doing that. And like I said, definitely some heavy-handed stuff. Even one of the guys on the subway, they were talking that he looked suspiciously like one of the Trump sons, which he absolutely did. Again, did I hate it? Absolutely not. Did I love it? No, I didn't. I liked it. I thought it was good. And Joaquin Phoenix has always been a hell of an actor and continues to be kind of one of my favorites. And then just finally, just finishing it up here with the last two kind of stacks. Found a few issues of The First Kingdom. It only went 24 issues. I've got the first 14 already. I don't often find the later issues. And again, $2.99 a pop. So book 18. Book 22. And then book 24. I know that these have all been reprinted everywhere. I end up seeing the Jack Katz, the hardcover First Kingdom everywhere. And I think these came from BMV. Yeah, they were from BMV. In that shop, they had the hardcover for a pretty good price. But I mean, I'm so close to having all the issues. I kind of want to have the issues as opposed to the graphic novel. So I'm still gonna be on the hunt. Would I watch it again, Rasa? Honestly, no. I wouldn't have a desire to watch it again. It didn't do enough for me that I would sit through it to try to pick up something else or relive it again. The one that I did end up watching again was that other Batman with I'm gonna blank on his name till all of a sudden it'll come to me, with the amazing performance by the guy who's now dead. I watched that a couple of times, and the reason I watched that the second time was purely to watch his acting as the Joker, because it was fucking phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. He stole the movie, because God knows that Christian Bale or whoever it was with his fucking bullshit growly voice was just Heath Ledger. Thank you very much. His bullshit growly voice was just horrible. So thank God, Joker. The other thing I liked about the Joaquin Phoenix Joker was the scene where he walks to the hospital, the same hospital that blows up in that Joker movie. Almost, I'm pretty sure, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it was a very similar camera angle. Maybe, actually, no, it was a little more, it wasn't quite on that angle, but I really loved that scene, him walking to the hospital, that we've seen in that other movie, him walking out as it explodes behind him. I thought that was a really nice touch as well. Unfortunately, it's a double, but I don't see Nemo magazine around very much, so I grabbed it without having a close look at my CLZ app. So now I have two of them. And then 64-page special said that he's going to do a video where he shows off his near complete collection of Nemo magazine just for me, which is very nice of him. And then, of course, finally, some Comics Journal. They had a pretty good sized box of the journal in the basement at Beguiling, but some pretty steep prices. So I got a few of the cheaper ones, including a $4 one. And this one. So $8. Rick Veitch on one side, roaring Rick Veitch doing his Big Daddy Roth rat fink. No. Yes. And then S. Clay Wilson on the flip side. Really great photo there. And then the other one that I had to grab out of that box, it's Gilbert Shelton, him of Wonder Warthog and Freak Brothers. So that's cool. A few more of the journal for my meager 2-box, I think at this point, 2 magazine boxes filled with the journal. That's it, peeps. It was great. It was a great trip. We had a great time. Holy shit, that's an hour. Yeah, really liked it. Really nice to go with the family. Really nice to just relax and not do anything, as the entire city of Winnipeg just gets covered in a blanket of snow. The next movie, Rasa, that you should see is The Lighthouse. I haven't seen it yet, but check out that trailer. If you haven't seen The Witch, highly recommended to see The Witch. It's the same director. It's his second movie. I'm really looking forward to that. I hope it doesn't disappoint me as much as Midsummer did, that director's second feature, because the Lighthouse looks just goddamn good. Any new comics? No, I've just been kind of reading these older ones, Rasa. When I pick stuff up, and this trip, actually, I read a hell of a lot. I was surprised at how much of this I actually got through on this trip. The only new thing that I read was the Silver Surfer Black, which I think comes to an end right away if that issue hasn't come out already, and absolutely loved it. It's one of the best things I've read, and that's mainly because the art is absolutely mind-blowing. And I'm still kind of going through the Defenders stuff. I just picked up some Avengers issues that kind of tie into the Avengers storyline that's going on right now in that reading. Just to kind of get a bit more of a sense of it. And it's fun. It's wordy. It's not blowing me away, but it's good enough that I'm coming back to it. Other than that, I'm trying to think if there's anything new that I read. Let's have a look what's sitting up here. Not much, honestly, Rasa. That's about it. That's for the new stuff. Because I just don't pick up any new books. You read number one. What did you think of it? Oh man, honestly, Rasa, if you can find them, I would highly suggest continuing, even if it is just for the art, because the art just gets better every single issue. I mean, that first issue ends on that amazing kind of full page panel with that kind of main villain there, but it just kind of develops from there. It gets even better. That art gets just it's exceptional. It's really, really worth it. And I think it's a, what is it, a 5-issue miniseries, I think. So, all right. Thanks very much. I got to put some clothes in the dryer. Thanks for hanging out with me for an hour. It was nice to see you, Rasa. It's rare that this happens, that you're around, because I do these at such wonky times. And 64-page special. You're always around, and I do appreciate it. Love it when you come and hang out with me for a bit. Yeah, absolutely check it out. Really give it a shot. I think you'll dig it. Okay, people. Have a good day, Rasa, and we'll talk to you all soon.